Up early in the morning watching movies, what I'm doing. Hey! Hey everyone, this is D Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today I'm coming to you all with my out of the theater thoughts, this time on The Housemaid. Directed by Paul Feig and starring Amanda Seyfried, Sydney Sweeney, and Brandon Sklendar. Story-wise, of course, this is centered around a young woman named Millie, who gets a new job as, what else, a housemaid, but soon discovers that she has gotten herself into much, much more than she bargained for, to say the least. So, of course, I'm going to start with my pros. First, let me say that this is a theater I have been going to since I was in high school. This theater was very instrumental as far as my experiences with the movies and my mom and I driving up here during, the Oscar season. And I mean, we saw a multitude of movies. I remember we saw Curse of the Golden Flower, Talk to Me, like all the films that basically you couldn't find anywhere else. We were able to watch them here. I think Dreamgirls, like every film, just about every film you can think of that was nominated from, maybe 2005 to 2006. Yes, that was a banner year, and I think I can definitely say that given my experience and my appreciation for film, this place here is definitely a big part of that and a big piece of why I have that experience now. So I am really happy to be back here, and the last time I believe I was here was when I saw Rogue One, and that was back in 2016. So it has been 9 years since I've been here, which is bananas. But of course, I don't necessarily live here anymore. But yeah, so I have to say, like, just the nostalgia of that. And then of course, this theater has been recently renovated, which of course was really exciting to see. I mean, they've laid it out, like for real. So yeah, so I had to get that out the way. But as far as my pros for the film, let me say that Paul Feig, of course, he's made so many films that I, along with others, have enjoyed. Bridesmaids, The Heat. I remember seeing Last Christmas with my friends in 2019. But I have to say that given his usual style, The Housemaid, as far as a psychological thriller, that seems to be a little bit out of his wheelhouse, as far as I know. I may be missing a couple of films on his filmography, but yes, this is something a little bit different given his usual style. But I have to say I really enjoyed it. I am a psychological thriller fan, even when they aren't the best, there's something about the genre I find so much enjoyment in, just people and their secrets and twists, turns, suspense, thrills. Like, I love all of that. I really do. So yes, and given the trailer, I figured I was going to be getting something pretty intense, but I still didn't know, because I think even with psychological thrillers, even the best ones sometimes have a little bit of a formula. Alrighty. And that is not a commercial playing. Interesting. All right. Again, haven't been here in a minute. I think even the best psychological thrillers have a bit of a formula that they have to adhere to, or usually do adhere to. So I was a little bit worried about that. But what I will say is that, of course, this is an adaptation of the original novel, but I still think like the structure of the story and the twists, the turns, especially certain twists that happen, it was surprising. I wasn't really prepared for that, but I really did enjoy it. Amanda Seyfried is putting on a show. Let me tell you. I don't think, unfortunately, these are the type of films that don't really get nominated for awards, but I think Amanda Seyfried, I mean, she really was putting in a performance here. And I was really impressed. It was a lot to take on, and definitely I like the fact that some of it leans into a little bit of camp, and then some of it leans into some really deep, intense emotions, and I really appreciated that. So I have to give her much kudos, because I think the majority of this film regarding the story and what works about it, she is really at the forefront of that. And then I have to say that Brendan Sklendar, of course, I was introduced to him in the film Drop. I did a review on that. I'm going to be honest. He obviously is being cast for his looks. You know, he has the debonair, good-looking on-screen presence that you need for stories like that in this. But I wasn't really that impressed with him in Drop. Drop is, you know, it wasn't the most complex film, and it wasn't the most complex character, so that's fine. But ultimately, I was just kind of whereas here, I think he has a whole lot more to work with, and I think he does a fairly impressive job. There are a lot more layers to his performance than I expected there to be, and what he's required to do and what he ends up taking on, especially as the story escalates, yeah. I think he definitely did what was required of him, and maybe a little bit more. And yeah, I just think that this is a film that just really makes the most of some twists and turns. And I also like the fact that there were some really interesting parallels to certain types of relationships and the type of dynamics that people will allow themselves to remain in because of what they fear once they step outside of that. You know what I'm saying? And of course, there are more extremes here, but I thought it was interesting because I could definitely see the commentary there, especially regarding how people feel about singleness, how people feel about marriage, relationships, you know, what serves them, what doesn't serve them, and what it means if they separate themselves from something that they are comfortable with. So I thought that was a message that I really appreciated, even though it was wrapped up in a lot of shenanigans. So yeah, I really did appreciate that. Jumping over to the cons, I don't really have a lot of cons. I would say that, again, I mean, it was kind of obvious, but Sydney Sweeney, she's just okay. I think the challenge I'm having is that as someone who has seen Euphoria, the 2 seasons that they've released thus far, I think that there are a lot of impressive actors on the show, especially within that show, especially given the characters that they have to work with and the performances and what they're being made to do. Let's just say that. There's a lot of shenanigans in Euphoria as well. But I think that Sydney Sweeney, Zendaya, Jacob Elordi, I think the way their performances work in that series versus what they do or how their performances maybe come forth in other films is just not quite the same. I don't know if it's something about the medium, television versus film, but it just seems like some of them, it just doesn't quite work outside of that. Now, I feel like they all have had opportunities and they have definitely made strides. Jacob Elordi with Frankenstein, Zendaya with Challengers. I would say, according to Sin's Corner, shout out to her, but Sydney Sweeney apparently had a pretty solid performance in Eden, which, although it wasn't the best movie from what I've heard, her performance was actually pretty solid. So outside of that, I think she's just kind of bleh, you know, compared to Amanda Seyfried especially. But outside of that, I think this was a bit of a thrill ride, and it definitely had some depth and some layers to it that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, I would probably give this about a B-. It manages to, I don't know if elevate is the word, but it definitely managed to give me something within this genre that I haven't necessarily seen like this. It stays within that structure, but it does more. And I do appreciate that. And I think the experience overall was pretty intense, along with some very shocking moments of violence. And it all goes into the mix. It all works within the structure and the dynamics of the story, and overall I really enjoyed myself. And given that I got to get up super early, this was a 9 a.m. film, and revisiting the theater and having this experience in December again. I also used to watch a lot of films around that time, around Christmas and all that as well. So I think all in all, this was a great experience, and shout out to Paul Feig. I don't know if he's going to do any more suspense thrillers, psychological thrillers, but I'll be here for it, because this, yes, given my past couple experiences, I am glad to say that this was a yes for me. I had a great time, and I will definitely be back to visit this theater very, very soon. So, once again, this is D, Movie Man, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.